Alright, welcome everybody to week 7, day 2. We're going to continue our discussion of logic today. How are you guys doing on De Morgan? I saw that Mr. Singh has been able to get down to 69, which is very nice. And there's an easy 2-character pickup there, Mr. Singh, that will tie you with me at 67. So, what? Yeah. His approach is almost identical to mine. There's a small difference. The move that he made, I thought about making, and I think looking at it, it won't actually save any characters if I take his trick on mine. But it's yeah, pretty nice. And yeah, 69 characters when you start with like what 100 and something, just returning false. Yeah, it's cool. Got it down to 52. Oh dang, dude. Nice. Very nice, Sarah. Gonna have to see how you did that. See if it follows the rules. There's nothing in the rules that says a dog can't play De Morgan. Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay. Excellent job. Cool. And is that a Demon Hunter character you have there, Sarah? Can't really tell. The icon's like that big on my screen. Okay. Demon Slayer, yeah. Yeah, I watched, I binge watched that back in May. Yeah, okay. It was funny, like I had a student yesterday in my office hours and he was like, "So what kind of anime do you watch?" It's like, this is why you're in office hours right now. You want to get some anime recommendations from me? All right. He recommended a couple to me too. Interview with Monster Girls and Ancient Magus Bride. I've never heard of either of those, so I don't know if you guys have any opinions on them or not. If you've seen them before. It's worth my time. Is it? Okay. I'll check it out. But I tend not to watch anime that look, I don't know. Is it wrong to pick up girls in dungeons and My Life is a Slime and things like that? Like I don't know, just something about the name. Just like I'm just like I've heard it's good. My Life is a Slime, but like just the name alone is just like I don't know. I don't think I can deal with it. All right, so you love it. All right, I might have to check it out. We'll see. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about today is modal logic. Second thing, first thing obviously was My Life is a Slime. Second thing we're going to talk about today is modal logic, and yeah, and if you haven't figured out how to get sub 70, then keep working at it. There's a lot of tricks. It's a fun assignment because you can play with the code golf in different ways. You know, like there's all sorts of tricks you can use to cut down on the number of characters. I don't want to give away any tricks, but I might. You know, I don't know. No, I'm not gonna help you. There's enough out there. You should be able to shave it down. Get the top scores. Okay, so we got 2 more symbols for y'all. So if the set theory things weren't enough, and the set theory competence exam, something I'm working on right now actually. We got a couple different competence exams that are kind of queued up, so I'm going to start kind of pushing more of those out because you got an easy homework. So I kind of was slacking on the competence exams because you had 2 tough back-to-back programming assignments, and I didn't want to like murder you. But now that De Morgan's like literally this much code, right? two lines, you know, of code, something like that. So, I'll be doing more of those. All right, so two more symbols. So we got the square, which is the necessarily thing. So if something is necessarily true, it must always be true in all possible universes, right? So when we say that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is necessarily true, we're not just saying it's true here in this universe, but even if you imagine an alternative universe in which there's no shrimp, then thanks for the not murdering. You're welcome. You're welcome. Mental health of my students is actually something I care about, which you might not believe after 2 back-to-back 20-point assignments, but it is actually something I care about. I'm still going to make you learn stuff, and it is going to hurt your brain. But it should be a good pain. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like when you're working out and you're like, yeah, developing your, you're like, oh, I'm sore, but like when you're sore after you work out, like that's a good pain. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you get injured and you're like, oh, my arm hurts. Sometimes actually I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, my arm hurts. I'm like, oh wait, that was from lifting weights. It's fine. There's something just psychologically better about it. Okay, so we can say it's necessarily true that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay. And I feel like I should almost put 2 equal signs there because it's computer science, right? So, I'll get to that in a bit. And then the diamond is the possibly character. So it is possible that the Chargers will win the Super Bowl, right? Someday. Some people might disagree. I don't know. So when something is possible, that means that it could happen, it could not happen. It's possible that, I don't want to say Epstein didn't kill himself. That seems a little too edgy. But, there's a lot of possibilities in the world, And what it means for something to be possible means that it's not impossible. Okay? It is impossible for something to have, something to be both a circle and a square at the same time. Right? And so something being possible, it's a very low bar of threshold. Like if you say, oh, it's possible that so-and-so murdered someone, that's a very low bar. Like all that you're saying when you say something is possible is that it's not impossible, right? Like if you have video footage, undeniable footage, that somebody was here, in this room at 5 p.m. last Friday, and a murder took place in Washington, D.C. on 5 last Friday, somebody stabbing somebody, you could say it's not possible. It is impossible for this person to have been the murderer, right? But, just if somebody's in the same city at the same time, like it's possible they murdered them, but there's this, are you doing this square circle? That's funny. That's clever. I like that. Yeah. It's a cool art exhibit. Yeah. Right, like there was a house fire in Fresno, or actually the local trash area has caught on fire 3 times this year. Like it's possible any of you were the arsonist. I mean, there wasn't an arsonist, but it's possible. And the way that this thing works is the way that our human brains work is that we're really bad at dealing with low probability things. And this explains a hell of a lot of stuff as far as what people are risk adverse to, maybe some of the anti-vax sentiment. There's a possibility you will die from a vaccine, and what happens is that our brain is okay, we'll set the percentage of that happening to 3%, and it's just ignoring the fact that if you look at the actual numbers, it's a vanishingly small percentage chance. It's not 0, but people have really hard time dealing with numbers between 0 and 5%. All of those sort of get mixed together in our brains, right? We just, 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 1,000,000, 1 out of 1 billion, all feel like in our brains about the same. You know what I'm saying? And they're very different. Like there's an order of magnitude difference between them. Like we have no trouble seeing the difference between having, 1 kid and 10 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people are like, yeah, I could have a kid, maybe 2 kids. 10 kids? Oh, hell no. It's way too many. Like, for whatever reason, we can distinguish between 1 and 10 and 100, no problem. But between like a 10th, 100th, and 1,000th, our brains are like, it's all the same. It's all the same number. So my odds of dying from, a lightning bolt is 1 out of 100, or something like that. Like, and it's not. Like, it's much, much smaller than that, So, I'm not saying that if you're in a lightning storm, you should go out and hug a tree or something like that. But, it's just like, there's just a psychological element to it. And so when people are trying to pull a sneaky, they'll, without lying, like they can be technically true, they'll say, it is possible. Is it not possible that you set fire to the dump the other day? And, and most people say, yeah. And so, I'm in the same town, like, or, like anything's possible. I could have blacked out and lost my memory, and then to the jury, that's like, oh, he's saying it's possible. And then, they'll say like, okay, that's like a 20% right there, because anything not impossible is possible. But it's just one of those great weasel words where, psychologically speaking, the way that we use it in English is not the same as it's used in logic. Okay? And if the prosecutor's called on that, like, look, I'm saying it's a 1 out of a billion chance, he's like, well, that's what possible means. It just means not impossible. Right? So, people react on emotion. It's part of it, but it's also just how the English language is. Like if versus if and only if. In English, we use if for both. Right? If you clean your room, I'll take you to Disneyland. That implies that if you don't clean your room, I won't take you to Disneyland. But that's not what it means in logic. In logic, if and only if are two very different things. But in English, we both use if for both. We just stress the word if to mean if and only if. And or in logic means inclusive or, either one or the other or both. But in English, if you stress the or, that means it's XOR, it's exclusive or, one or the other, but not both. Would you like to have my cell phone or my wallet? Right? Or. I'm saying, and a logician would be like, yes, I want both. But that's not how we use it in English. In English, if I say, I'm going to give you one of these as a thank you for saving the life of my dog, do you want the contents of my wallet or do you want my cell phone? And a logician would be like, yeah, I want both. No, it means exclusive or, one or the other, but not both. And this is another case where English and logic don't sync up and it causes problems. Okay? Because possible just means not impossible. A 0.0001% chance is possible. A 90% chance is also possible. A 99% chance is also possible. A 2% chance is also possible. All of these are possible. It just means not impossible. Necessarily is 100%. Possible means above 0. All right? You guys with me on this? In English, we use words like not very possible. It's extremely possible, which doesn't make any sense from a logical perspective. It's extremely possible. Like, what the hell? Like, it's already all the numbers. Like, how can it be all the numbers more? It's not very possible. Well, that's the same thing as saying possible, right? But we use these qualifiers to sort of, like, on that spectrum of confidence between 0 and 100, we have a lot of different adjectives to describe kind of like different regions of that spectrum, right? Like, it's likely that the person's the murderer. It's highly probable that the person's the murderer. It's not very likely. It's somewhat possible he's the murderer. It's very possible, right? Like, we have all these different words that kind of have this fuzzy, like, boundary of like, okay, it's somewhere in the 60 to 70% I'm saying that he's the murderer, right? And in logic, though, possible just is that entire spectrum, and it's just weird to us. It's weird to our brains. Okay, gotta love semantics. Yeah, but it's something you have to pay attention to, especially if you're gonna be like talking to people in the real world. You know, here's the thing. I don't know. Been online for so long. It was weird. I was wearing my mask for so long. Like I realized I just didn't have to smile anymore. You know, because like nobody could see me smiling anyway. So never heard of it. Yeah. But yeah, in real life, it's really important to qualify your statements, right? To say, rather than possible, you know, to like say, you know, I think it's somewhat likely that they're going to try and buy out our company. You know, like you know, that somewhat likely, 30 to 40%, somewhere in that range. I don't know, right? Genuinely like semantics, it's fun, yeah. But seriously, it's really important in real life to qualify your statements, to give that sort of confidence level on your statements. It's important in science. Science is very much a confidence-based discipline. We talk about confidence intervals. We talk about, you know, I think the average growth you'll get from taking this drug is 3 centimeters on a tomato plant, but I'm not very confident that's true. You know, it seems like it does, but we need more experiment. Like there's all sorts of qualifications that we do, and if you want to be perceived as scientific, like you need to start using those things, especially in more formal contexts. You know, okay. So if something is necessarily true, it cannot be possible for it to be false. It is not possible for something to be false when it is necessary, and when something is possible, it is not necessarily false. So a lot of people express these necessary and possible things as like, if you think of the multiple worlds interpretation in quantum mechanics, you know, like there's a world just like ours, except one in which Aaron posted a different animated GIF on Discord, you know. So rather than posting the tree being hit by lightning, he posted this one here, you know. Completely identical world in all possible ways, except there was a cat doing the Thriller dance or something. I don't know. Okay. So basically, if Aaron posted that lightning tree hit in every possible world, then it would be a necessary fact. But I think most people would say it's a possible fact because it's there's no like real reason why he couldn't have done it, you know. So, although, you know, that starts digging into philosophy, like, do we have free will? Is it deterministic? Things like that. So, if there's any world in which it happens at least once, it's possible, right? So, you know, it's possible that Fresno State lost to UCLA, right? This last Sunday? Something like that. It's possible, you know, maybe in some world, I don't know. So, and if there's no worlds in which it's true, then it's impossible, right? So there's no world in which 2 + 2 = 5. Unless you're using like an Intel CPU. There was a bug in Intel CPUs back in the 90s, which caused them to do wrong math when doing floating point. It didn't come up very much, but it would actually give wrong math results every once in a while. Which costs them a lot of money refunding all those CPUs. Okay, so yeah, so basically, if you think that all statements, all propositions have to be either true or false, then you start running into an issue with free will existing, right? So this is a thing that Aristotle talked about in his Organon. And consider this. Vargas will get an A in the class. Is that a statement that is true or false? We might not know if it's true or false, but is that a proposition? Does that carry truth? Is it true that Vargas will either get an A or not get an A, come the end of the semester. Is it reasonable to say that that is a truth-bearing proposition? A truth-bearing statement, rather. That it will be true that he will either get an A or not get an A in the class. I mean, what other possibilities are there, right? No grade going in, I guess. But that would be not getting an A in the class, right? So, but if it's true, we don't know if it's true or not. But if it is the case that Vargas getting an A in the class is true or false, that means the future has already been set, right? Because if it's true, then that means he doesn't have any choice in the matter, right? If it's true, then it's predetermined that he's going to get an A in the class. And contrawise, if it is false, then there's absolutely nothing he can do about it. He will not get an A in the class, no matter what. It's already true and false. The only issue is we don't know if it's true or false. But us not knowing if it's true or false isn't actually meaningful in this case, because all that really matters in this case is that the future has been predetermined, right? Like, I don't know if there's aliens on Alpha Centauri, but it's still true or false, right? There's either aliens there or there's not, and you can probably you'd probably have to define the terms in such a way that it would be definitive, but basically, if we could fly a spaceship there right now, we could look at it and be like, all right, there's aliens there, there's not aliens there. True or false, we just don't know it. It doesn't. Our knowledge doesn't affect the fact that that's true or false. Likewise, our inability to know the future doesn't change the fact that it's already been predetermined that there's already a truth value. Vargas will get an A in the class at the end of the semester. So what's the point of studying? He's going to get an A anyway, right? So, he doesn't need to study. He's going to get an A. Or, or if he's not getting an A, what's the point in studying? There's no point. What do you think? Dibs on Vargas as a partner, except, we don't know if he's going to get an A or not, right? So, Vargas hasn't said anything. What do you think? I mean, this pretty conclusively, proves, right, that there's no such thing as free will. The future is fixed, immutable. Vargas is typing. Possibility of an A is dropping off the further into the PowerPoint assignment we go, the more your brain explodes. Didn't know we'd be doing philosophy and discrete math, huh? What do you think? What's the answer to this? What is if we wanted to argue against this, how can you even argue against it? All propositions are either true or false. So, everything's predetermined. Nothing you do matters. Might as well stay at home and play video games all day. You'll get an A in the class anyway. Or maybe you have to study. There's no choice in the matter. You just have to. It's like dead silence on Discord. So there is no answer. No, there is an answer. I'm just asking if you can... I'm asking if you can figure it out. Aristotle answered it. Like, this isn't like, this isn't like, something nobody's thought about. Like, it's a fairly famous problem in philosophy. Not the most famous, but it's also not the least famous either. To get an A or not get an A. Must be true, right? These are contradictory statements. Either he'll get an A or not get an A. If you or something with it's not, it's true, right? It's a tautology. X ORed with not X is true. It must be true that he will either get an A or not get an A. Isn't that Shakespeare? No, Shakespeare was talking about bees, not A's. So, that was a good one, huh? Okay. So, yeah. So we have no free will. Everything's predetermined. Everything's pre-known. If you're a Calvinist, you're probably just nodding your head like, yeah, that's how it is. Before you're even born, God laid out the entire plan for your life. You're going to hell, you're not, doesn't matter. Nothing you can do, can help with that. You're either part of the elect or you're not. Hope you're part of the elect, So, so there's an illustration of free will. I don't know if you're old enough to get the reference. You forgot about Willie? Okay, good. Somebody gets the reference at least. All right. It's Free Willy. It's a movie about a kid who frees a trapped orca. Bit pretentious if you ask me. Okay. So, so Aristotle is kind of a cool dude. Even though he was the person who invented bivalent logic, that everything must be either true or false, he added a third possibility for statements, which is possible. So something is necessarily true, something's necessarily false, or it's possibly true or false. Okay? And so that gives us an out. Okay? So he basically rejected the law of the excluded middle. He said that for some statements, like statements about the future, they're not necessarily true, they're not necessarily false, they are possibly true or false. So he sort of invented modal logic, 2,000 something years ago, right? So, old school Elijah Wood, yeah. That's before he walked to Mordor. People said you can't walk to Mordor. Frodo kind of walked to Mordor, It's kind of what he did. A little bit of climbing, maybe. I don't know. So, yeah. And so he liked the idea of free will, and so he's like, all right, we'll just, we'll come up with this modal logic thing, and there you go. And so if something's possibly true, then you can work hard, succeed, get an A. Yeah. When it's not simply walk into Mordor. He did. He did walk into Mordor, right? He didn't walk out of it, he flew. He did walk into Mordor. Right, so you can accuse Aristotle of being engaged in motivated reasoning because he wanted free will to exist. He sort of came up with this thing. But at the same time, that's kind of necessarily true, necessarily false, and possible. That's kind of what we have nowadays with modal logic too. So, yeah. So motivated reasoning, by the way, is this. Basically, people make philosophical arguments to kind of support their pre-existing prejudices. It's like, if you want there to be free will, then you make arguments for free will. If you don't want there to be free will, I don't know. So, right. So basically, all this is tying into the notion of multivariate logic, which is the notion that there is more than just true and false, right? So a guy named Jan Łukasiewicz in the 1920s, and I did ask a Polish professor how to pronounce his name. I had studied his stuff for years and had absolutely no idea how to pronounce the L with a little slash through it. Yeah, so Jan Łukasiewicz in the 1920s figured out that even if you don't have the law of the excluded middle, you can still have a consistent set of logic. So he made what's called trivalent logic, which had true, false, and other. And then there is a more general form of logic. There's what's it called? Tnorm. What's it called? Tnorm fuzzy logics, yeah. So basically, truth is on an interval between 0 and 1. Okay. And so statements like, it's hot outside, can be 80% true. Or, I have an apple in my hand, which is what we talked about last time. As you eat an apple, the truth value of it decreases from true to false. Right? So it doesn't have these bright line paradoxes, the Syllogisms paradoxes, that you get where you have to determine when it's raining, when it's not raining. You know, like 5 drops per minute it's raining, and 4 it's not, so that extra drop contains the essence of rain. I don't know. Right? So fuzzy logics, you just say, yeah, it's a, you know, it's a light rain, it's a medium rain, it's a heavy rain, 40% chance of rain, although chance is not exactly the same thing as fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic has to do with confidence. Sort of. So, or not even confidence, but degrees of truth. Okay, so it's, yeah. Well, depends on who you talk to. But let's consider the difference here between percentage chance and degrees of truth. So if I hand you a cup of tea and tell you that it has a 10% chance of having a lethal dose of cyanide in it, would you drink it? I'll pay you $100. $100. Here's a cup of tea. It's got a 10% chance of having a lethal dose of cyanide in it. Shouldn't ask millennials this question. It's win-win. I'm sorry. Dark. It's the dark humor characteristic of, yeah. Okay. So there's a difference between that and never going to get to Sicilian when death is on the line. Yeah. So there's a difference between that though, and me handing you a cup of tea and saying this has 10% of a lethal dose of cyanide. Do you see the difference between it? Like, one is it's all or nothing. There's a 10% chance it's all. It's a 0% chance it's nothing. The other one is it's 10% true. Right? Do you guys see the difference there between, like, probability and, like, degrees of truth? Either way, if you drink 10, like, you know, let's say you had 10 cups of tea, and, you know, the cyanide has been distributed, you know, maybe they poured it all into one, maybe they put 10% into each, but, you know, maybe if you drink all 10, you're going to die either way, but, like, if you're just dealing with 1 cup of tea, like, there's actually a pretty big difference between it being 10% lethal and 10% of a lethal dose. 10% of a lethal dose isn't going to kill you, right? It's, I mean, I guess there's always a chance, but, like, it's way below the lethal dose. Whereas a 10% chance of it having lethal dose will kill you 10% of the time. So, does that make sense to y'all? Like, some people, like, confuse it with probability. It's like flipping a coin. Yeah. Flipping a coin's probability. 50-50 chance you drink a lethal dose versus half of a lethal dose. Like, there's a world of difference between those things. Okay, so in fuzzy logic, 0 is false, 1 is true, just like in classical logic, but you allow values in between as well, 0.3, 0.7, 0.9, whatever. Okay, and what Łukasiewicz found was that you can actually make things like and or and not work, and they work, in fact, basically the same way as in classical logic. So it works like this. Okay. So not is, rather than just 1 becomes 0 and 0 becomes 1, not is 1 minus the old truth value. So if you had a truth value of 0.7, if you not it, it becomes 0.3. 1 becomes 0 still, 0 becomes 1, 0.5 stays at 0.5, neither true nor false. Not. Okay, it's neither true nor false. Right? And is replaced with the minimum of 2 values. So true anded with false is still false. But like if you and 0.3 and 0.6, you get 0.3. And or is the max of the 2. So if you or 0.3 and 0.6, you get 0.6. So all the truth tables actually for bivalent logic still work. Right? True anded with false is false. True ored with false is true. Do you guys see that? Does that make sense to you? That if you plug in 0s and 1s, like, you get the same answers out, but it's extended to, you know, a whole range of values. Could you do this on the quiz? Could you do this on a competence exam? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Let's maybe. All right, let's say you did on the last one. Let's check in on that. It's like a 10% chance I could, or you're confident that you'll get 10% on the quiz. So the one we did last time was 921. Let's see the quiz statistics on this. All right, yeah, that's pretty good. All right. So yeah, Carnot map and good. Yeah, so A ended with B, ORed with B ended with C. Yeah, you don't need this one at all because you've got A. A is bigger than A ended with B, so you can actually just throw that away. Ditto for that one. So it's just A ORed with C. And then for the Carnot map, all the areas corresponding to A are true, which is these two columns here. So C and D, G and H, K and L, O and P. That corresponds to A being true because the first digit here is A. So A is true, that's this region here, those are all ones. And then not A, ended with B, ended with D, so this is not A. These two columns correspond to not A. B being true and D being true is this row. So I and J are going to be true. No? Wait. No, sorry, B, sorry, that's C. B is true, so it's this one here. So A is false, B is true, and then D is true. So F and J. Where's F? It's not advertised there. F and J. Okay. So these two columns here are true. These two spots here are true. And then these 6 are false. Okay. So one of the nice things about fuzzy logic is that it resolves a lot of those paradoxes. Like the Barber paradox, or the Cretan, all Cretans are liars, or S is a set of all sets that don't include themselves. All of those paradoxes can be resolved because the reason why they're paradoxes is because the law of the excluded middle causes paradoxes. It's just a fact that, not everything is true or false. Like there's degrees of truth. I have a poisonous cup. Okay. Could be true, could be false, could also be somewhat poisonous, right? Be like 20% poisonous, So, what you can do is you can set the truth of this statement, and you don't have to like disallow self-referential statements, which is something that logicians have tried to do for years in an attempt to like stamp out these paradoxes. Like you just can't say that. You just cannot say that I am a liar. That's just not like. It's like, how can you say I can't say that? I just did. I'm a liar. Okay, did I tell the truth? Ah! Have any of you played Portal 2? Portal 2 came out 10 years ago? More than that? When did Portal 2 come out? Still selling for $10. That's amazing. Came out 10 years ago, yeah. So in Portal 2, you've got this kind of idiotic AI helping you, and then there's an evil AI called GLaDOS that was sort of the antagonist of the first one, and you sort of work with her. You attach her to like a potato or something and carry her around with you as the moron AI takes over. Spoilers, but I'm sorry, the game's been out for 10 years. And so GLaDOS is like, all right, we need to take down Wheatley, and we're going to do this by telling him a paradox. And so she says, this statement is a lie. Don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. As she like tries to avoid scrambling her own brains by saying this statement is a lie. And then Wheatley goes, I'm going to go with false. What? No, you can't do that, you moron. There's no answer to it. No, that sounds false to me. I don't know. Yeah, it's false. So that's, I guess, one way of resolving the liar's paradox is be like, it's just false. What? You're wrong. I don't know. It seems wrong. I don't know. It's false. So that's a great way of resolving it. The way that fuzzy logic resolves it is via noting this is true. So what you're saying when you say this statement is false, you're saying the truth of this statement is equal to the not of the statement, right? This statement is a lie is the same thing as saying P is equal to not P, which is not solvable under classical logic. P is equal to not P is not solvable under Aristotelian logic, standard Aristotelian logic, right? But if you use fuzzy logic, you just say P is equal to 1 minus P, solve for the truth value P, you get 0.5, done. So what does that mean? It's neither true nor false. It's halfway in between true and false. The statement is a lie, it's neither true nor false. You can't do that. It's not allowed. Come the screams of logicians around the world. You can't just say it's not either true nor false. Everything must be true or false. Well, why don't you let me say a self-referential statement then? No! Okay. Alright. Dang Traus is real? What is Traus? Traus? Traus. Okay. True or false? Oh, yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. And so this is kind of the response a lot of logicians gives, like, you can't do that. You know, you can't have something that's both true and false. Okay. All right. That's a good one. What is a microphone, true or false? False? I don't get that one. There you go. Got a new slide. Thank you, Krente. By the way, Krente, I went in to the Yellow Mug today, and one of my students works there, and she said that you've been very helpful in the tutorial center, and that you don't just give her the answers, you help work her through the problems and things like that. So you got a nice kudo today. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, so you're glad? Good. So we're going to talk now a little bit about argumentation, and we're going to talk about a couple really important things when it comes to logic. The basic form of a deductive argument is you start with some premises, and then you have a conclusion. And when you have a deductive argument, the notion is that if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. It's necessarily true. Okay? So the logic reminds me of Schiff-thesis. Yeah, but Schiff-thesis is also solved by fuzzy logic, right? Like, as you replace parts of the Schiff-thesis, is this the original Schiff-thesis decreases proportionally? You replace one plank, okay, it's now 94% the original Schiff-thesis. If you find the axe of Abraham Lincoln with 50 new heads and 60 new shafts, like, is that the original axe? No, it's not. Yeah, like it's actually, you know, it just all these paradoxes, they just come about because Aristotle's like, there can't be anything other than true or false. Even though, like, for the future ship battle, he's like, there's something other than true or false. So, I don't know. People just get people. You would be surprised how twisted people get over that issue. Like if you're like, it's hot outside, it can be 80% true. Like, oh, it's hot outside, must be true or false. You must do a survey, and if a majority of people agree that it is hot, then it is hot. Okay, so at exactly 89.2 degrees, it becomes hot. 89.1 is not hot. It's just it's just, I don't know. It just strikes me as very funny, like, because there's really no benefit to classical logic. I mean, I guess it makes your life a little simpler, but like it just works so badly. Yeah. Okay. No, that's not modus tollens. So we're gonna talk about two valid forms of argumentation right now. The first is called modus ponens. The other is called modus tollens or tollens. I've heard some people pronounce it toyens. My professor pronounced it as modus tollens, and so I'm just going to call it that. I don't really care if I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's logic, not English class. So, a modus ponens argument works like this. If x, then y. X is true, therefore y is true. And so if that's the case, if both premises are true, the conclusion must necessarily follow from those premises. Okay. So example. Do I have an example? No? Great. Well done. Well done, self. So for example, if I say, if you practice hard, you can learn to play the guitar in a year. And that's premise 1. Premise 2, I practice hard for a year. Conclusion, I know how to play the guitar. That is a valid argument, although I probably could have phrased it a little bit cleaner. That's a valid argument. Okay. Whether or not it's sound is something we'll talk about after the break. But x implies y, premise 1. X implies y, premise 2, x is true. Conclusion, y is true. That is a valid form of argumentation. It's called modus ponens. The other form of valid argumentation using implications, the if-thens, is this. If x is true, then y is true. X is not true, therefore, said that wrong. If x, then y, premise 1. If x, then y. Premise 2, y is not true. Conclusion, x is not true. Okay. If x, then y is not true, therefore x is not true. That is a valid form of argumentation as well. And the reason why it's true, and this gets people, modus tollens is a lot harder for people to get than modus ponens. Modus ponens is a very simple deductive argument. If you clean your room, I will take you to Disneyland. I clean my room, therefore I'll take you to Disneyland. All right, cool. Yay. Go team. Modus tollens is harder to understand because we don't work as well with negations in our heads. So if I say, if you clean your room, I'll take you to Disneyland, and then a friend sees me later, it's like, hey, you're not at Disneyland. And I'm like, all right, well, okay. What can you deduce from that? Oh, your son didn't clean his room, did he? Nope. And the reason why that works is because if it's necessarily true that if he cleans his room, I'll take him to Disneyland. If my friend later on sees me not at Disneyland, then they know for certain that my son didn't clean his room, because if he had, we would be at Disneyland right now. And again, I could clean that up and make it more precise and add temporal qualifications, things like that. But that's the general idea. If X happens, then Y must happen. If you see that Y didn't happen, you conclude from it that X didn't happen. Because if X did happen, then Y would have happened, but Y didn't happen. So we know that X didn't happen. We'll run through examples after the break. Okay. Last thing real fast is the Pigeonhole Principle. And this applies to hashing. So the Pigeonhole Principle came from the days where they had like carrier pigeons and things like that. And if you have 5 pigeons and 4 holes for the pigeons, then you know that at least one of the holes will have more than 1 pigeon in it. Kind of makes sense, right? So if you have 5 pigeons and 4 holes, no matter how you organize them, like you can try stuffing all 5 pigeons into one hole, if you're really, wedge them in there. But no matter how you do it, one of the boxes that you put the pigeons in is going to have at least 2 pigeons in it, right? Because the best you can do is distribute them 1 to 1, and then wherever the 5th one goes, it's going to have to share an apartment with another pigeon. And so this is really useful when you talk about hashing, because you can think of these are the numbers being hashed. This is the hash table. And so Pigeonhole Principle comes up a lot when we're like analyzing hash tables. There will be a collision, once the table's full. It also comes up with all sorts of random things like, did you know that at least 2 people in London share the same number of hairs on their head? Because the average human has somewhere around 100,000 to 500,000 hairs, something like that, somewhere in that range. And so if there's more people than that, then it's guaranteed that, because London's got more than 1 million people, right? Then it's guaranteed that at least 2 people in London have the same number of hairs on their head. Pigeonhole Principles also comes up a lot in compression, right? A perfect compression system cannot exist. Because, let's say that somebody came up with an algorithm that could compress anything 2 to 1, right? In fact, technically I can compress anything to 0. I can just delete it. When we say compressing, though, we mean that you can uncompress it as well. And so let's say, and I've actually in real life heard a person make this claim before. Like they had a paper and they claimed they can compress anything at 2 to 1. And my dad was like, "Oh, this is interesting. We should invest in that technology." I'm like, "No, Dad. No, it's impossible." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Think about it. There's, if you have 10 bytes of data and you can compress anything 2 to 1, there's 5 bytes they can compress down to. And so 2 of them are going to share the same box. And so if you uncompress, you can't tell which of those 2 it'll be. At least 2, right? Because all 10 of them could compress down to the same number, albeit unlikely. Do you guys see what I'm getting at here? So like if let's say I was compressing, let's say I was compressing strings of just A's and B's, right? So I just have a bunch of text files. They all have either the letter A or the letter B in them. And so let's say A, B, A, B, 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 A. Maybe I should have made shorter strings. A, B, 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 A, B, B, and I'm not going to write the other 8. So let's say they've said we can compress anything 2 to 1, which is what this person said. So that means we can compress 4 letters down to 2 letters. And so we've got A, B, A, B, B. So Pigeonhole Principle. We've got here 8 different pigeons, and we got 4 boxes. Actually, we got 16 pigeons because I didn't draw the other 8. So no matter how you allocate this compression, no matter how this thing compresses, like I could compress this down to this, and 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 this one to this, and this one could compress to that, now it can compress to this one, and nobody compresses to BB at all. I can know from the Pigeonhole Principle that at least one of these boxes, in this case 3 of them, share multiple things compressed down to them. Therefore, you cannot go back the other way. You cannot uncompress it, which makes it pointless, right? It's very easy to compress things down if you can't get the data back. Right? Just delete the file at that point. And so by using the Pigeonhole Principle, you can prove that perfect compression cannot exist. Another way you could prove it is just by saying, okay, just keep running it on itself every time. So if you can compress it down using perfect compression, then you can compress it down to just, 1 letter, A and B, and then compress it down to no letters. So what is A unpacked to? Is that Hamlet and that's Romeo and Juliet? Like, you you just can't. There's no way to do perfect compression. Because you compress it down to 1 bit. And then what does that 1 bit translate to? There's only 2 possibilities that it could unpack into. So Pigeonhole Principle is very useful for demonstrating when people are frauds. So does that make sense? Pigeonhole Principle, by the way, is one of those things that every computer science person knows. Like I don't know how many times I've been in a conversation just with a computer science person. They'll just be like, "Oh, Pigeonhole Principle." This is actually one of the things that you need to know to be conversant as a computer science major. You want to. All right, I'll give you some exercises on Pigeonhole when we come back after these commercial breaks. So go ahead and take a 15-minute break. We'll come back at 11:15. Okay. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get out of this presentation. So we want to practice these things, right? So let's go over to this is. So here's a couple of relevant questions. It is necessarily true that a perfect circle cannot be drawn in real life means that it is not possible that a perfect circle can be drawn. True or false? You guys concur? If it is necessarily true that a perfect circle cannot be drawn, then we can conclude that it is not possible that a perfect circle can be drawn. This is the necessary symbol. This is the possible symbol. Is it quiet for anyone else? Can you guys hear me? I can turn up the sensitivity on the mic if you want. You can hear? Okay. What do you think? True or false? If it is necessarily true that a perfect circle cannot be drawn, then that means it is not possible that a perfect circle can be drawn. That is true. That is actually true. Okay. If it is possible that Fresno State would win the College World Series, which they did like 10 or 11 years ago, then it is necessarily true they would win the College World Series. If it was possible that Fresno State would win the College World Series, then it was necessary that they won the College World Series. I mean, it does kind of get into philosophy at some point, right? It's all predetermined, But yeah, this is false. Under modal logic, this is called the modal fallacy, which confuses possible and necessity. Okay. All right. We'll get to those next. Choose if this is a MT or MP argument. All dogs have 4 or less legs because, sometimes there's an accident and they lose a leg, right? This creature has 8 legs. Or, to put it in a more precise sense, this creature does not have 4 legs or has more than 4 legs. Okay. Actually, I don't think we need to rephrase this because 4 or less. Yeah. Now, if you want to be precise about it, you would say this creature does not have 4 or less legs. There. That's the more precise way of saying that. Okay. Therefore, it is not a dog. So, I mean, you could have your spider dog. There you go. Spider dog. Spider dog. It's a pretty good webcomic, by the way. Stand still, stay silent. It's pretty good if you're into webcomics. Okay, anyhow, yeah, this is it. Thank you, Shahab, for answering, because nobody else did, apparently. Can you refresh on the difference of the two again? Yes. So, modus ponens is your standard deductive argument. If x, then y. X is true, therefore y is true. Modus tollens is x implies y is false, therefore x is false. Okay? And then there's two related fallacies that go with that that we'll talk about in a little bit. But for this, you just have to pick whether it is MT or MP. So this is, in fact, modus tollens. Okay? X implies y, not y. X implies y, not y, therefore not x. Okay. All spiders have 8 legs. Premise 1. Premise 2, that creature is a spider. Conclusion, it has 8 legs. This is indeed MP. Thank you to the 3 students for responding on that out of the 14 that are streaming right now. Do we not even have everybody? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so like 2 people are in the chat that aren't streaming currently. Disappointing. Okay. So if you make an airplane from wood, it will be light. But we know that the airplane we have is not light. Therefore, it is not made of wood. Good. Thank you, 3 students that are active right now. It is, in fact, modus tollens. Okay. All right. So, do we have a pigeonhole question on here? No. Somewhere I got pigeonhole. No. Okay. So let's go into syllogisms. Okay. So we're going to go over these again. Don't worry. So in classical Greek philosophy, most syllogisms are in traditional Greek philosophy, a syllogism is like a 3-line argument. And the first 2 lines are the premises. These are the things you must assume to be true. And then the conclusion is the line that inevitably follows. If the first 2 are true, the conclusion inevitably follows from the premises. Okay? So, Socrates is a man. All men are mortal. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Anyone know where that's from? Before I click on that link. Which I won't, because I'll get a copyright strike. Anyone know where Socrates is from? Bill and Ted. Very good, my man. Very good. Excellent. Yeah. They call him Socrates. So, and Keanu Reeves still going strong. I don't know what happened to the other guy, though. Bill. You know. What did that actor do recently? It's not John Wick or anything. Although that would be pretty funny. If, like, the actor who played Bill in Bill and Ted, Keanu Reeves was Ted, I think. If he was in John Wick and the 2 of them fought together, that'd be pretty funny. Okay. They did just make another Bill and Ted. That's true. That is true. I didn't see it, though. Okay. Just got back. Just listening is heading back. All right, cool. Welcome back with your caffeine. So Socrates is a man. All men are mortal. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. And so a lot of these syllogisms are best understood through kind of sketching them out in like set theory. So this is why I teach set theory first before teaching this. So this is a set of all men, and that means like humanity. It kind of like when people get upset because they're just talking about men. No, it's like it means humans, right? Unless you're Eowyn in The Lord of the Rings. No man may kill me. I am not a man. You know, when you refer to this, it's referring to mankind, right? Humankind. At the opening of Congress this year, they said "Amen" and "A women" at the end of the prayer, and I was just like, it's not even English. Okay. So Socrates is a man. So Socrates is somewhere within the set of men. Okay. Right. So Socrates is a member of men. All men are mortal. So mankind, humankind, is within the set of all things that are mortal. Okay. Not metal, mortal. Okay. So all elements of men are elements of mortal. And Socrates is an element of men. Therefore, Socrates is mortal, because Socrates is a man. Everybody within the group of men is in the set of mortal. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. So this is like a, like if you were to write this in set theory, X is an element of Y. Y is a subset of Z. Therefore, X is a element of Z. Okay. So pretty much all these syllogisms can be translated into set theory and stuff like that. That did and still does bother you. What bothers you? Oh, the amen and a women. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like I get it. Like, you know, the inclusivity thing, but like sometimes people just get upset about the wrong things, and mostly, fortunately, it's on Twitter and things like that. Okay, so man, mortal. Okay, so there's 24 kinds of syllogisms, but basically, why did we not have this before? Okay, so basically, you need to understand these four symbols. So there exists is the backwards E. So there's four symbols for today that you have to learn: backwards E, upside down A, diamond, square. Okay, that's why I have no social media. Yeah, like we have different norms in different groups, right? So let me put my pen down. So like different social groups have different norms, different codes of conduct regulating their behavior, right? And not all groups have the same codes of conduct. For example, obviously, religious groups have different codes of conduct. Orthodox Jews have a different code of conduct for what you can't do on a Sabbath, and you know, versus like Reform Judaism, let alone Islam, let alone Sikhism, Catholicism. Like just that in and of itself is pretty obvious that each insular group has its own sets of kind of like customs and like things that are okay and things that are not okay. And it works pretty well in the real world, right? Like if you're offended by not being able to, you know, do something on the Sabbath, then, you know, don't be an Orthodox Jew, you know, join Reform Judaism or something. But in the online space, what's happened is that all these groups have been sort of jammed together, right? Especially on Twitter. I've said this a lot in my critical thinking class this semester, but like whoever thought Twitter was a good idea is just naive in the extreme, because Twitter allows people to yell at anyone they want, right? Like on Facebook, nobody can like yell at me because I don't have any public facing anything, right? It's just me and my friends, and so I can say what I want, and you know, I don't say anything bad, right? You know, my fellow coworkers, my dean is my friend on Facebook, you know, and I don't really have any desire to say anything bad, but I don't. But like, I'm sure that if like all of my Facebook posts were made publicly available, it would offend somebody out there, you know, because everybody's got a different set of norms for their groups. And Twitter is especially bad at this because all of them get to come together in the same place and yell at each other. And it's great for driving engagement because people, oh, that person yelled at me on Twitter, I need to yell back at them. And so it's great for driving clicks. Like, I understand why they do it, but it's just a terrible idea to just allow people with very different, you know, norms, with the codes of conduct, to just be jammed together into the same pool and just be able to flame each other willy-nilly, you know. So yeah, misinformation is a problem also, but even bigger than the misinformation, I think, is the divisiveness that's come about through social media. Like if you look at the graph of like warmness, like they do these things called like a warmness thermometer, And they use this to measure all sorts of things in social sciences, like, they ask white people, what is your warmness towards black people, right? And they'll be like, oh, it's here. And then they aggregate, right? And then over time, they found that white people have become warmer towards black people, right? Cool. Now, you do the same thing for Democrats versus Republicans, and what you find is that the attitude of people used to be, it used to look something like this, right? Like there was kind of this bimodal distribution where like attitudes towards your group, warm, attitudes towards the other group, cool, kind of close together. What's happened is that over the last 20 years, the thing has gone like this. Basically, people are more happy with their own side and much less happy with the other side. And, you can blame the media for some of that. You can blame the social media for some of that. Blame politicians for some of that. But, it's created this environment in America where everything's becoming politicized that shouldn't be. A lot of Republicans see not taking a vaccine as a way of sticking it to the man. It's like a political statement to not take a vaccine. And, despite Trump being the person who pushed Operation Warp Speed to get vaccines to America, in record time, which, we got vaccines in record time, and we got them before most of the world, and then somehow it's a political statement, though, to not take your vaccine, so you can show the man you're not afraid or something. And it's just like it's a vaccine. Like it's not it's inherently not political, but people have made it political, And all this, people trying to control each other's vocabulary and terminology and things like that too, is and a lot of that just comes about from like these different groups being overlaid on top of each other. It's like if you like back in the day we had forums, right? You could join a forum. And people with similar interests could post on the forum. And Twitter's like, you take all the forums, you put them on top of each other, and wait for the chaos to ensue. And sure enough, when people start yelling at each other, then they start using Twitter more, and it's great for Twitter, but it's just like from a social health perspective, like it's just been, I think, incredibly destructive to the fabric of our society, It's not like Republicans and Democrats got along ever. If you look at the presidential elections from, back in Thomas Jefferson's time and the things they said about Alexander Hamilton, they're quite bad. Like I'm not saying they got along. Like there was never overlap. There's always an us versus them mentality. But if you track these things, they have split very dramatically in the last 20 years. And I don't think that's very healthy for us as a country. And once you even stop talking to people that disagree with you, you're not going to hear opposing opinions, and you're not going to hear facts that are common within one group and pretty much not heard in another group, right? And you need that. You need to have that interchange, because when you hear facts that you never heard before, you're like, oh, that's interesting, and then you can sort of revise your opinion and stuff like that. So, that's my rant on the matter. I don't know. Would the world be better off without Twitter? I don't know. That's a more complicated question. Would the world be better without Facebook? I don't know. Some people, yes, absolutely. They had duels, yeah. Twitter's toxic. It's a public square without body language, limited characters, yeah, and then like things like sarcasm and things like that just don't translate very well online. And that just makes everything worse. And also, like, you typically end up responding to the worst people, right? Because the worst people are the most obnoxious, How could you say that, And then they, like, a lot of trolls just get off on, like, trolling people. Yeah. I only go on Twitter for memes, yeah. So, I don't know. It's like, I treat Facebook like a press release, like, here's a photograph of what I did, and so, I can just let people know. So I don't have to email people, hey, I'm going to be in Europe for a month. I can just post on Facebook, I'm going to Europe for a month. And then my friends are like, okay, he's in Europe. I don't need to, call him up and invite him out to board games or something. What does the world become? It's a good question. I'm reading a book right now. I just started it. I'll let you know. But it's a book written by 3 Stanford professors. that talk about what sort of... Well, actually, I haven't read it yet, but I am assuming that what it says is they have ideas on how to like kind of fix the mess run with like big tech and stuff like that. So I use Twitter to say dumb things like how Taco Bell doesn't have your favorite foods anymore. Yeah, but see, Yox Slammer, you're actually saying the truth there, so it's okay. Because what the hell, Taco Bell? What the hell? No grilled stuffed burrito, no 7-layer burrito. Like, the 7-layer burrito was immortalized in song, you know? And Winona's Big Brown Beaver, you know, which is a song. I'm not being vulgar. It's a song. And about a beaver and an animal. And it, you know, talks about and you're getting rid of the 7-layer burrito? What the hell? What the hell? Power burrito. Yeah, like, yeah, the healthy menu. Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Go on. That's a good use of Twitter. Lobby Taco Bell to bring back the grilled stuffed burrito and the 7-layer. Okay, so let's talk about the terminology. That's enough ranting for now. So, there's 4 symbols you need to know today. E is there exists. Upside down A is for all. Diamond is possible. Square is necessary. Have you guys seen these on your Zybooks? I believe I assigned them on the Zybooks. So hopefully it's not... the loaded potato griller. Yeah, I've stopped going to Taco Bell. I don't, and it's closed now. Like, I was over there like 9 o'clock at night. It was closed, and I'm like, the hell, Taco Bell? Like, did you just like run out of beans or something? Like, what's going on? They confused you? Okay, so let's go over it. Let's go over it then. So let's say we've got a set called S, and inside of here we've got cat and dog and turtle. Yep. Is it true that there exists an X that is an element of S such that X is cat? Backwards Z means there exists, one or more. Okay? So, is it true that there exists an element of S where X is cat? Staff shortages? Probably, yeah. Pay your people more. I don't know. I don't want to tell you. Yeah. Lots of people are looking for work. Just pay them more. I don't know. Offer them a iPad or something. True. Yes. Sarah, you are correct. There is an element of S where X is cat. It's that one right there. Okay? Now, is it true that for all elements of S, X starts with C? Upside down A means for all. Is it true that for all elements of S, that X starts with the letter C? For all elements of S, is it true that all of them start with the letter C? What do you guys think? Correct. It's false. Okay. So for there exists, all you have to do is pick out one element for there exists. There exists means pick one element. For all means all elements in the set. Okay? So is it true that for all elements X in the set, X is an animal? Truth, false. Is it true that for all elements in S that X is an animal? I didn't say mammal, I said animal. I mean, I haven't... Just plain reading here, guys. I don't do like trick questions. Well, the cat is referring to a caterpillar, which is a type of backhoe that's used in construction and stuff like that. No. Yeah, this is true. This is true. For all elements of S, cat, dog, and turtle, all of them are... turtle's an animal. Cat's an animal, dog's an animal. You thought the dog said oof? That's funny. for my handwriting. Okay. That's hilarious. Okay. So yeah, so for all elements of S, they're animals. And, you know, again, I'm not being super formal here. Just plain reading. Okay, so let's do a couple more. Is it true that there exists a bird within S? Is it true that there exists an X that's an element of S such that X is a bird? Nah. Right, so for there exists, all that needs it to be true is for one of them to be true. And in this case, it's false because, yeah, none of these are birds. Okay. And then is it true, and, yeah. Syllogism. What's going on here? Okay. Yeah, so there exists for all. And then we went over possible and necessary earlier. Okay. So basically, you don't have to sort of exhaustively study all 24 kinds of syllogisms because it all just works down to set theory, and you can kind of figure them out just by going through them. So, premise one, and a lot of times we actually write like P1, P2, like that, and then conclusion. Conclusion is written with 3 dots sometimes. Okay, so premise 1, all cats are mammals. Premise 2, all mammals have fur. Conclusion, what? Set of all cats are mammals. Mammals are a subset of all things with fur. It's mammals, cats. What can we conclude from that? All cats have fur. Yep. And when you kind of draw it out set theory wise, like they usually kind of make things make sense, right? So, cats is a subset of mammals. Mammals is a subset of fur. Therefore, cats a subset of fur. Okay. I know there's hairless cats, but even they have. Right. So, right now we're just talking about validity. Validity means the conclusion follows from the premises. We haven't talked about if the premises are true or not. Okay. We're just talking about if the logic works. And so, for example, there are hairless cats, but even hairless cats technically have fur. You just can't see it. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's beautiful. That's a majestic and noble creature right there that I'd be honored to have. It's my pet. Okay. So, some cats have 4 legs. You have a cat. Therefore, what? Work the logic out. Some cats have 4 legs. Remember, there could be an auto accident and the cat might lose a leg. You know? You have a cat. No, you cannot conclude that you're like, because it's like this. This is cats. This is the set of all things with 4 legs, right? And, you know, there's like lizards and crap like that in here, right? Dinosaurs, you know, not everything with 4 legs is a cat. Dogs are in here somewhere. But there is overlap. Some cats have 4 legs. Some cats don't. Right? So if you have a cat, it might have 4 legs and it might not. Okay. So what you say is your cat might have 4 legs. It's possible. Use the diamond for that. Okay. For this one, it's necessary. You know, it's necessarily true that your cat is an element of fur. Okay. For this one, it's possible that your cat is a set of 4 legs. Okay, a member of the set of 4 legs, or your cat, I should say. It's possible that your cat is a member of 4 legs. It might be. So your cat could be over here. Your cat could be over here. Do you guys see that? And so it may have 4 legs, may not. No, not false. The conclusion is your cat might have 4 legs. Like, that's legitimately the answer here. Like, this is a true conclusion. The true conclusion is your cat might have 4 legs. It's what we know. Okay. Can't have 5 legs, you know, because cats have 4 or less legs. Okay. Okay. All dogs have fur. All cats have fur. Therefore, what? What can we conclude from this? Here's a set of all things with fur. Set of all cats. Dogs. We don't know if they're the same or not, so dogs over here. So we can conclude if all cats have fur and all dogs have fur, that all cats are dogs, right? No, wrong. Right, and when you draw this out, it lets you see why the fallacy is. Like, there could be a cat over here that is not a dog. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you just replace it with like Y and X, just because 2 different groups both share the quality or the property of having fur, doesn't mean they're the same set. They could be different sets entirely. So, all you can say is that it is possible the dogs are cats. Based on what we know here, it's possible the dogs are cats. Maybe some dogs are cats. I don't know. Yeah. Or you could say like what Tomas and Shahab said, which is that all dogs and cats have fur. It's true. But yeah, you can't say that. And this is a very common mistake people make in real life. Hitler drank water. You drink water. Therefore, you're Hitler. Right? So, it's a matter of 2 possibilities based on specification. Just because 2 things share an attribute does not make them the same. For 2 things to be the same, they must share all attributes. So this is called, talking about my boy Leibniz again. This is called Leibniz's law of indiscernibles, which is that for 2 things to be the same, they must share all properties the same. Right? So if 2 things are the same, all of their properties must be the same. Not just one, all of them. Yep. Almost said we drink Hitler. Yeah. Almost. I've had just quite a little bit enough caffeine that I did not make that mistake. Been up since like 7 o'clock in the morning. Got some new furniture in our house. Been moving furniture around all morning. Okay. So, no human knows the future. Bob is a human. Therefore, Bob knows not the future. So over here is the set of humans. Over here is the set of all things that know the future. That's what the premise is saying. Bob is a human, so Bob's over here. Here's Bob, somewhere within the set. What can we conclude from this? But here's the thing. It's a possibility. Yeah, but based on the premises, right? We're not talking about soundness yet. We're just talking about validity. We're just talking what we can conclude from the logic. What we can conclude is that Bob does not know the future. That was a giant blast of cinnamon right up my nose. I like cinnamon too. That was a little much though. Yeah, I'm getting the fog breaker from the mug. It's my drink there. It's like a cinnamon and vanilla latte kind of thing. So, yes, we know the Bob doesn't know the future. Okay. No human knows the future. Dr. Manhattan knows the future. So here's humans again. Here's people that know the future. Dr. Manhattan is over here. What can we conclude? Do you guys know what Dr. Manhattan is from? Get that reference? Watchment. No, we can't conclude that Dr. Manhattan knows the future. I mean, it's trivially true. But this is a premise, right? So we have premise 1, premise 2. If we just concluded premise 2, that's circular reasoning. It's not very interesting to us. So the conclusion is going to be Dr. Manhattan is not human. Okay. So you start by sketching out the sets like this, and then you kind of, you know, put an element into the thing. It usually makes the conclusions pretty obvious. And I will always love you. Amazing. Yeah, it's from a comic called The Watchmen, or Watchmen. There we go. Pretty good movie, came out a while back, and then I think they're doing a Watchmen series, right, on HBO or something like that. Let's start broadcasting. 2 years ago? Okay. All the episodes got between a 94 and a 100% positive. It's pretty good. Pretty good. 500,000 people watching it. Total viewers, 1.2 million. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. So, yeah. Show's pretty good. I haven't seen it. I watched the movie and read some of the graphic novel, but HBO, yeah, I think it's on HBO. I haven't seen the TV show. Okay, all cats are animals. Some cats are calico. Calico is like tortoiseshell, I think it's called sometimes. Not to be confused with tortoiseshell. Sorry, tortoiseshell is the color pattern, like that. Yeah, I used to have tortoiseshell cats, but they have three colors on them, and they have to be basically they have to be female because of the way that coloration works. Okay. So, all cats are animals. Some cats are calico. Therefore, what? All calico cats are animals. Yeah, that's true. So cats, we have cats, and then somewhere within here we have calico. So all cats are animals. Some cats are calico. Looks like this. All cats are animals. So we can conclude that all calico cats are animals, or we can conclude that some animals are calico. Either way. We can either say all calico are animals, or we can conclude that some animals are calico. Cats are animals, some have calico. Yeah. Is this kind of making sense to you guys? Are you kind of following with the set theory kind of stuff? Like, I find that like just kind of sketching these things out kind of helps me understand it. Okay. They're kind of fun. There's like I said, there's 24 classical forms, and you don't really need to go through all, and they all have names too, which is kind of cool. Like they all have these like cool names. This is the British syllogism, abbreviations, and I'm not super into that stuff, but it's kind of neat. No slot machines are fun. That's true, by the way. Some games are slot machines. I don't know if that's true. But, wouldn't all games be slot machines? All game? No. There's Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers is a game that is not a slot machine. All slot machines are games, you could argue, but so we're saying we have the set of all fun things over here. We have the set of all slots over here, and some games are slot machines. So some games are slot machines. So I'll draw it maybe like this. Games. We don't know if any games are fun. So put a question mark here. But yeah. So what do we know? We don't know if there's actually, we don't have any information on that or not. All we know is this. Some games are not fun. Yeah. So we know that some games are not fun. We know this is true. We don't know if any games are fun based on the logic here. Okay. And it is arguable if slot machines are games at all. Okay. All Jedi are useful. Jar Jar Binks is useless. Therefore, so is that a possibility? Yeah. So for this one, it is possible that a game is fun. It's possible that a game is not fun. Okay. Both of those are true. But it is necessarily true that slot machines are not fun. So this means, so all Jedi are useful. So we got over here the set of all useful stuff. And all Jedi are useful. So Jedi are a subset of useful. Jar Jar Binks is not, this is Jar Jar Binks. He is not in the set of useful. Therefore, we can conclude that Jar Jar Binks is not a Jedi. Right? Because whenever you draw a dot within a set, like if we said Jar Jar Binks is useful, all we know is that he lands somewhere within the set. We don't know if he's a Jedi or not. He might be. It's possible. If I change this to say Jar Jar Binks is useful, he may be a Jedi, he may not be. But because we said Jar Jar Binks is useless, then we know that Jar Jar Binks is not a Jedi. So we can conclude Jar Jar Binks is not a Jedi. Now, here's another argument. All Sith bring about ruin. Jar Jar Binks brought about ruin. Therefore, Jar Jar Binks is a Sith? Can't conclude that. Right? Because not everybody who brings about ruin is a Sith. So you have the set of all creatures that bring about ruin. Sith is in here somewhere. Jar Jar Binks is somewhere within ruin. We don't know if he falls here or here. Okay? So what can we conclude? Nothing? No, there's a statement that could be made here. Not all Sith cause ruin. Yeah, we're not talking about soundness right now. We're just talking about validity. Soundness is, if I could write, this tablet. Soundness is about the truth of the premises. So is this true? Is this true? Right now we're just talking about validity. Validity is the logic connecting the premises to the conclusion. Okay? So we're asking, if these two things here are true, what can we inevitably conclude from this that must be true? And the answer is Jar Jar might be a Sith. So it is possible, what we conclude is that it is possible that Jar Jar Binks is an element of Sith. Yep. It is possible that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith. So you're saying there's a possibility. Right? So possibility is a valid answer, yeah. Like in logic, these are the core vocab, right? There's necessary, possible, there exists, for all, you know. Jar Jar Binks actor, yeah, and there's a lot of hate directed at Rose's character too. Rose's actress, I should say, because her character in the sequels. You've been wondering if possible is a possible answer, yeah. So, I personally think that Jar Jar being a Sith would actually sort of make the character a lot more interesting, because now all of that foolish clowning around has like a sinister purpose, you know, and it's not just like George Lucas pandering to kids, you know, like with the Ewoks. Wasn't he supposed to be? I don't know. Like, I've seen George Lucas's creative process. He just kind of comes up with whatever's on the top of his head. I don't think he was too thoughtful about this kind of stuff. Okay, I could be wrong. So, nothing is better than eternal happiness. A penny is better than nothing. So the theory was originally meant to be, but Lucas abandoned it when the character was so hated. I don't know, like if, like that would be like, I think people would have liked that twist. I don't know, because if you hate the character, make him a villain. You know, then your hatred is justified. Yeah. So nothing is better than eternal happiness. So nothing is better than eternal happiness. Yep. And a penny is better than nothing. So what can we conclude? You've always liked Jar Jar. Yeah, he never really bugged me that much. Ewoks didn't really bug me either. It's like, they are what they are. They're like walking teddy bears that kids buy merchandise. And, you know, it's like the porgs and the sequels. Same, like, you know why they're there. Like, you know, Lucas made a clever back in the 1970s getting the merchandising rights to the movies. And ever since then, all the Star Wars movies have always had some sort of merchandisable, you know, stuff in it. So I get it. A penny is better than eternal happiness. Yes, that's correct. So there you go. What do you mean it's not correct? The logic, it's right there. The logic is right there. The amount of Baby Yoda merchandise is insane. Yeah, yeah. One of my friends started a cult based around Baby Yoda, and has like thousands of followers, and changed your last name to Child, and yeah. What about Baby Groot? Yeah, not as big as Baby Yoda. Like Baby Yoda was like a phenomenon. So what's wrong with this? What's wrong with the logic here? What is wrong with the logic? Because I'm going to tell you the logic's wrong. What's wrong with it? Apples to oranges? Yeah. Kind of, yeah. Nothing can be as better than eternal happiness? No, nothing is better than eternal happiness. Right? Can't compare the two. Literal versus figurative meaning of nothing. Yeah, better than nothing is yeah. So the term nothing, like here, we're talking about like, for all elements of the world, for all objects that exist, that object is worth less than eternal happiness, right? That's what this nothing means. A penny is better than nothing. I mean, it's like, better than nothing means like you're not comparing it with an object, or you're just saying it's. So what this is called an equivocation fallacy. So the use of nothing has two different meanings, and so even though it appears to be logical, it appears to be like a valid argument where the logic works, there is kind of a giveaway that you're concluding a penny is better than eternal happiness, right? That's a clue that there's something wrong going on. But what if it wasn't obvious? What if we switched out these words here, and the conclusion was something that made sense? A lot of times that'll just fly right in under your mental radar, right? So this is called an equivocation fallacy. And these things can be very, very hard to pick up. It actually helps if you study another language, right? So when you study another language, it gives you insight onto your own language. For example, Aaron, how would you translate the word can in Chinese, in Mandarin? Yeah. How would you translate that word? Not like a tin can. Hold up. How would you translate that? Would you translate it as 可以? Translate it as what is it? Wrong. Translate it as way. So you do 可以? Okay. So 可以 is one of the words that mean can. Do you know the other ones? Do you know wrong and way? Like, I can speak Mandarin. You don't use 可以 for that. You say 我会说国语, right? 会 means I can speak Mandarin, right? Can I go to the store? Use wrong, right? Is it okay? 可以, Yeah, 会. Mm-hmm. So, the reason why I mention this is because in English, the word can actually encompasses different meaning. It encompasses permission, capability. So, hui means I am capable of speaking Chinese. Wrong is I'm going to allow you. You can go to the store. You can go out for the night. Just bring the car back later, and then there's internal, there's external capability, there's like a learned capability, and then there's like internal capability. Like people can walk, birds can fly, right? That's not a learned, this is a learned capability here. It's like I've learned to speak Mandarin, use hui. For people can walk, birds can fly, that's a different word. Wrong is wrong. I need to do the R a little better. I'm sorry. Wrong is you can go to the store. So it encompasses a lot of these different meanings. And in English, you just say, yeah, can. And then there's also tin cans, right? Right. There's like, if you go to a dictionary and you open the dictionary for can, there's like a ton of different meanings. And then here's the problem. If you put can into like a logical argument and you use one of the meanings in one premise in another meaning, in another premise, it looks like it's a valid argument, but it's actually equivocation. And that's what I'm saying. Learning foreign languages is actually really helpful in spotting these things, because, you know, when I read this, you know, I was thinking of like nanimo, which is nothing, right, in Japanese. And for this one, I would think about like zero, right? And so they would translate differently. You know what I mean? And if they translate differently, they're probably different words. And so this probably wouldn't even work in Japanese. You know what I mean? Because that better than nothing's kind of a phrase anyway. So if the words translate differently, like that's kind of a sign that they're an equivocation fallacy, right? Because words can have different meanings. And so let me give you an example of this. Let's see. God can know everything. Let's do this one. God can do anything. God can't do evil. Therefore, contradiction. Simple omnipotence paradox. Premise 1, God can do anything. Premise 2, God can't do evil. And both of these are held to be true by most Christians, I would say. And so atheists will say, well, look, that's clearly contradictory. It's an inherent contradiction. Therefore, you know, God doesn't exist. Shuode. Okay, all right. You just argue that God doesn't do evil, but could God do evil if he wanted to? This comes from the fact that omnibenevolence, right? The definition of omnibenevolent is all good, right? So omnibenevolence is that God is all good, can't do evil, and this one is omnipotence. So for this one, God can do anything. Premise 2, based on God's trait of omnibenevolence, supposed trait of omnibenevolence, God can't do evil, therefore contradiction. Right? This is a very common. There's a set of what are called omnipotence paradoxes that are various forms of this kind of stuff. So where is the equivocation fallacy? Like Yoxtheimer has a take on it that I think is correct. But anyone else see where the equivocation comes in? I've lost the rest of the class. Sorry. Is this going to be on the final? There is no final. Put on the competency exam. Dang it, Professor, stop talking about interesting stuff. Yeah, so the equivocation is obviously on the word can. I mean, I kind of teed that off for you. So can do anything is talking about internal capability, right? Has the power to do anything. And then this has to do with decision making, like choosing not to do things, right? And so these are two different senses of the word can. And there's like a choice in, I don't know what that is in Mandarin, but choosing to do something and having the capability of doing something are two different things, right? And so this is an equivocation fallacy based on the fact in English we just use the same word. And so when you structure it this way, it looks like there's a contradiction, whereas in reality, you're equivocating between different meanings of the same word. Like a choice, yeah. Like he chooses to not do evil, right? Which is different from being incapable of doing evil, right? So that's how that set of and there's a bunch of paradoxes, and they're all resolved either that way or some of them are based on anything, people understanding anything to include contradictions, which is a bit dicey. Okay, so modus ponens, modus tollens. Okay, if P then Q, P therefore Q. If you have a valid password for the server, then you can log on to the server. You have a valid password for the server, therefore you can log on to the server. Right? I'll even animations. We'll fade this one in, and then switch the order of these. Okay, so therefore you can log into the server, and again, we're just talking about validity, not soundness, right? So validity is this true? Is this true? And it should be true for both of you. So this should be a sound argument, but well, I don't know. Maybe your internet's down. That's kind of questionable here. So yeah, so this is a valid modus ponens argument. Okay. Then this is modus tollens. If P then Q, not Q, therefore not P. If you have a valid password for the server, then you can log on, but you can't log on, so therefore I know that you don't have a valid password. Because if you did have a valid password, you'd absolutely be able to log on, but you don't, so you can't. So you can't, so you don't. Okay? So, I think that's good enough for today. I will put up some quiz questions. I'll probably do like a fairly large quiz for today, because we went over a lot of topics, and we'll see what percentage of y'all understand possibility, necessity, there exists for all, modus ponens, modus tollens, and pigeonhole principle. So, and we talked about free will and God and humankind, stuff like that. Unexpected philosophy. Well, I mean, it's logic. So logic comes from the world of philosophy, you know. And there is a fair bit of overlap between philosophy and computer science, even though neither discipline really recognizes that very much. Okay, so that's it for today. I'll put up a quiz, and based on the results of the quiz, I'll know if you understood the material or not, and so that'll control whether or not I lecture on it again or move on to graph theory, which is my favorite topic in this class. So we're winding down the logic section, and we're gonna start probably in graph theory next week, but depending on how you guys do on this quiz, I might have to do a little bit more on logic. We'll see. Dijkstra workshop on philosophy, that'd be fun. Yeah, next Friday, Adversary, aka Hazelton, is going to be giving a Vim talk. So that's next Friday, 4 o'clock here on Discord, and on October 12th or something like that, Lon Nichols is giving a talk on plagiarism detection on Zoom. And so I've posted the link for both of those onto Discord and onto Canvas. And so those are extra credit points, yours for the taking. Hazelton's doing it on the 1st, I believe. I think the 1st is next Friday. Am I wrong? Yeah, next Friday is the 1st. And then Lawden is talking on the 12th. So we got extra credit. Like I said, I like doing lots of extra credit in this class, in all my classes. So, be there or be square, I guess. The Lawden talk is during this class. Oh wait, yeah, it is during this class. So I'll find out if it's going to be recorded. And if it's not going to be recorded, then maybe we'll just all watch it. I don't know. I'll figure that out. If it is being recorded, then you guys can just watch it later. Okay. Everybody gets extra credit for going to class. I don't know. I'll need to figure that out. Okay. Yeah. I'll talk to him about it. All right. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for coming. And work on stuff. Zybooks. There's a new Zybook stuff as well. Okay. I'll see you next Tuesday.